Let's go.
Hey guys, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. And if you've had a home gym for any length of time, you know as well as I do that a sled is one of the most versatile pieces of equipment in any home gym. The problem is twofold. One, if you go with a normal weight sled, they make an absolute ton of noise, way too much noise for anybody to really, get much use of. Number two is they take a lot of weight in order to get the resistance you want. So depending on what kind of material you're on, if you're on turf like I'm on right now, you have to put a ton of weight on. If you're out on concrete, depending on if it's asphalt, it can be fast. If it's regular concrete out on the road, it can be a little bit slower, but you still have to lug all that weight out, everything like that. So there's this new category of magnetic resistance or chain-driven reverse motors, different kinds of ways to add resistance to a sled. And the latest, and the one that I think is perfectly suited for the home gym, is this one right here. This is the Torque Fitness Tank M1 all-surface sled, and this thing's an absolute beast. But the very first version that this is based on is this one back here. This is called the Torque Fitness Tank. Before there was any other models, they now have a different name for it, but this one was originally called the Tank, and it's 4 wheels, extremely heavy. It's definitely versatile, but it's not very compact. And so I got one for my home gym. I ended up bringing it up here because there's just not a ton of room for it in a gym. You got to lug it out there in order to move it around. You got to pick it up, move it over. It needs a lot of weight to keep the weight on the ground so the wheels are down. It's a nice sled for a commercial application, but for a home gym, it's 1, overpriced, and 2, just a little hard to move. So that's where the M1 comes in. Now the M1 takes a lot of the features that you see on the Torque Fitness Tank and provides it in a much smaller, more budget-friendly, easier to use compact form. So the M1, what really separates it from a lot of the competition is that 1, it's magnetic resistance, meaning you adjust the resistance with this lever right here, going from neutral up to 3. There's not really a pound rating for that, and it's also not progressive, so if you go faster, it doesn't necessarily get harder. Once you hit a wall, it'll just stay that resistance, unlike, say, an Airdyne, for you guys that have used an Airdyne or an Echo bike or one of those types of bikes, a fan bike, where it's the harder you push, the harder it pushes against you. However, this one's kind of it's once you get to it, it stays there. But it's magnetic resistance against the front tire. So what that means is all the resistance is on the front tire. If you want to move it easily, you tip it back and move it just as easy as that. I mean, compared to the Torque Fitness Tank, the original, this is a much better home gym option, okay? And I'm not even talking about the cost or anything like that. I'm just talking about the ease of maneuverability. So you have that. In addition, if you want to basically put weight on the back in order to make sure that that tire is set up against the ground, they've got a weight horn right here, and that is strictly so that you can keep the weight down, so you can keep the wheels against the floor. However, I found that really you don't need a ton of weight on here because all the resistance come on the front. So really you're just keeping the weight down so you can drive through the ground. That's really the main reason you would put weight on here. But the other benefit on this that separates it, I think, from some of the competition is the fact that you can not only just go forwards, but you can also go backwards with these handles right here. So if you want to basically go this way, let's say you're going lengthwise, you don't want to turn it around, you go here, and then when you want to turn around, you just pop this lever up and then go back at a lower handle height. Works extremely well. And then lastly, the best feature of this that separates it from other induction drives, which I'm going to show you another one here in a moment, is that you can attach a harness on the front. So, like the Expo sled, which is one I'm going to talk about here in a moment, you can't pull on the Expo sled with a weight harness. It's not designed for it. I've asked them many times, hey, can you come up with a way to do this? Hey, can I MacGyver something? They didn't suggest it. They said it's not really made for that. It can hurt the machine. This one, I can attach a carabiner here, attach a rope on it, and then attach a harness to me, and then I can do sled walks, just like I would any other time, with a sled that makes no noise. That, to me, is a great feature because pulling sleds can be just as effective and useful as pushing sleds. So it changes it a little bit. Outside of that, This is just an extremely well-made machine. This does not feel like something that's just bought equipment off the shelf at Lowe's and harnessed together. I mean, this is like made from the ground up. The powder coat is designed for outdoor use, so it's like a really like gritty powder coat. It's the same that's used on the Torque Tank. The handles, the grip, everything about it feels like it's made for commercial applications like the Torque Tank, except it's in that smaller, more compact platform. Now, we've had the Torque Tank with a similar drive system as what's used in here for 3-4 years almost, and we've had no issues. It has a ton of weight that just sits on it. It gets used a lot by a lot of different populations of people, and it's just as good as it was from day one. It's just a great piece of equipment. So because that's so good, I have a good feeling that this is going to last just as long. Now, one piece of equipment that I want to compare it to that I think a lot of you guys have interest in is this one back here. So this is the Expo Trainer from Armored Fit. I would definitely say, just walking over here from that one, this is a much less polished version of that. I don't know, it's just not nearly as good of a piece of equipment from a long-term like durability perspective or even functionality perspective as the Tank M1. Okay, so basically what they're using is they're using a reverse motor with a chain drive. You guys know what I feel about chain drives. They end up breaking. There's tension issues, things like that. We have 2 of these, and I love these sleds. I think they're really useful. The difference between this one and that one, for this one having a little bit different benefit, is this one doesn't have any like adjustment as far as the tension. It's always the same tension, but the harder you push, the harder it pushes against you. So very similar to the Airdyne or something like that. The harder you go against it, the harder it's going to resist. The issue is this isn't a very refined piece of equipment. This gives me the feeling like these were parts bought from all these different places, off the shelf, welded this little like tripod unit together, and they put it out there, where that feels like a much more polished piece of equipment. Now, I will say this one costs less. The Expo Trainer costs less than the Torque Tank M1. Torque Tank M1 is right around $1. This one, I believe, is around $600 or $700. You may have some shipping extra in there. But in my opinion, if I was going to buy one for my home gym, I would definitely go with the Tank M1. I think it's more expensive, but I think what you're going to have in the long term is you're going to have fewer issues because you're not using a chain drive system. It's a much more polished product. It takes up less space. This one's a little bit wider than needs to be. And you can both, it's more versatile. So you can both pull it or push it. You can go both ways, and you can adjust the resistance to different lengths. So definitely a benefit there. Now, here's a question. Would I buy this over a standard sled? That's the other question. So a standard sled is like this Rogue one back here. So this is the Rogue Dog Sled 1.2. Great sled. When these came out, they were really popular. They used these in the CrossFit Games. They had all these attachments for them. I still think they're good sleds. This is the issue with sleds like this, is they make a lot of freaking noise. So if you're in a neighborhood that has an HOA, which if you're in a neighborhood with HOA, you're kind of getting what you deserve. But if you are in a neighborhood with an HOA, then you're not going to be able to use one of these because they make a ton of noise. They scar the pavement. It's just not really designed for, you know, like a neighborhood type of thing. If you're on a farm or something like that, go for it, farm boy. But this is not really designed for that. It's this versus that. This is much cheaper. This is never going to wear out. It's just, you know, like basically probably 4-gauge steel. It's just freaking thick gauge steel on the sleds. But it's louder. The resistance is difficult to change because you're using weight. It's hard to like track exactly if you're using the same amount of resistance as previous. And it's just too freaking loud. So that's where the Tank M1 comes in. So for those that are like, man, I want a sled, I've got a home gym, which one should I buy? In my opinion, out of all the sleds that are out there, unless you just want something absolutely cheap, then I would go with like a Rogue Fat Boy S25 because it's like just a small platform that you can pull behind you. But if you want something like a Prowler style that you can push, pull, do everything on, adjust the resistance, don't make a lot of noise, can hang it up on the wall, which by the way, they've got a hanging piece that goes on the wall. Yeah, I don't think they've launched it yet. I didn't get one, so I'm looking forward to that someday. But for now, if I was going to buy one, this would be it. I like it better than the Expo Trainer. I like the Expo Trainer. Armored Fit, they did an awesome thing coming out with that, but I don't think they reinvented it enough. This one is like the 2.0 of that one, a much more refined product. I like it better than the Torque Tank for most people. because it's easier to move around, takes up less space, has all the same functionality as that one. So if I was going to buy a sled and I had $1,000 burning a hole in my pocket, this would be the one I'd get. The Tank M1 from Torque Fitness. This is a 6 sled, okay? I'm not just saying that. I love this thing. I'm going to keep this at the garage gym because I'll use it. Okay, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.